Hello everyone, I hope you enjoy the story. The Warrior's Folly, the Curse of Cat Ears. Balthazar, the warrior, was failing. Not in battle, his massive, scarred hands still gripped his sword with lethal certainty, but in time. His aging body, once a fortress of muscle, was demanding rest he couldn't afford. Deep within the rat-ridden crypt, a blade had found a seam in his old plate armor, and blood now blossomed darkly on his tunic. He needed a moment, a pause. He stumbled into a small, dust-choked antechamber. From his worn satchel, he retrieved his last healing potion, a sparkling blue elixir that promised immediate repair. He uncorked it with a trembling hand and threw his head back, gulping the liquid down. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Instead of warmth, a cold, searing energy ripped through him, seizing his muscles and twisting bone. His heavy, aging body shrank, collapsing inward until he was barely 3 feet tall. His skin tightened, shedding its graying hair and old scars. Where his white warrior's beard had been, a smooth, supple jawline emerged. His human ears vanished, replaced by 2 high-set, twitching brown cat ears and a long, muscular tail unfurled from his spine, flicking wildly. He stared down at his new form, a tiny, powerful figure with a lithe, hairless body and surprisingly supple breasts straining the leather harness of his remaining gear. The potion vial lay shattered on the floor, leaking blue smoke. Balthazar, the gruff, legendary warrior, had been transformed into an absurdly alluring cat girl. The air was heavy with the smell of mildew and grave dust. Balthazar blinked, his eyes adjusting to the strange night sight of his new body. His armor, once perfectly fitted, now lay around him like a discarded suit of iron, far too heavy and large. His old self was gone, replaced by a delicate, agile chassis. He took in the sight of his new form, his full lips tightening with irritation. The exposed, small frame, now impossibly eye-catching, and the irritatingly soft curves of his chest left him furious. "This," he muttered out loud, his voice a strange, higher-pitched purr. "This'll have to get fixed when I get back to town. The clerics will reverse this ridiculousness." He discarded the useless breastplate and shoulder pauldrons. He grabbed his wide leather belt and wrapped it around his waist 3 times, cinching it tightly to hold his small dagger, the only usable weapon remaining, on his hip. Otherwise, his body was nude, a striking contrast to the ragged stone and shadow of the cave. He felt the humiliating heat rise in his cheeks, realizing his exposed state. He resolved to kill anything that stared too long. As Balthazar moved his remaining gear, he tested his new limits. He found that he had not lost his former strength. The raw, condensed power of the warrior still lived in his muscles. But his minuscule size caused endless problems when trying to wield his favorite weapons. His massive broadsword was now a ridiculous, room-sized object he could barely drag. With cold steel and conviction burning in his eyes, she now had to accept the physical reality of her body. "I've still got a job to do," she stated out loud, the feminine lilt of her voice not matching the grim resolve. "The Adventurers Guild needs this done." She checked the dagger and moved forward into the deeper tunnels of the crypt. It was then she rounded a corner and ran directly into 3 slow, shuffling zombies. The zombies were oblivious, their only goal shambling toward noise. Balthazar wasted no time. With surprising speed and agility in this new body, she rushed the first one. She darted between its stiff legs, and her old strength helped to drive the knife home, not in a hack, but a precise upward thrust beneath the ribcage, dispatching it with grim efficiency. Her lips, her full, new lips, curved into a feral smile. This tiny form was faster than her old one, nimble and hard to track. She lunged at the other 2, using her low center of gravity and compressed strength to stab and sever tendons, making short work of them. Her chest heaved up and down as she finished the last one, her breath coming in fast, sharp gasps of adrenaline. The strength was there, and the speed was a new, frightening advantage. Balthazar, despite the absurdity of her appearance, was still a deadly threat. Balthazar continued down the old crypt, her senses on high alert. She found and slew 5 more zombies along the way, the dagger becoming an extension of her tiny, lethal arm. She even found a few coins to add to the small pouch she had secured to her 3 times wrapped belt. Finally, she hit the bottom, a large, circular chamber carved from black rock. At the far end sat a skeletal orc mage, its true name forgotten, now only referred to as Ortunk. Between them and the mage was a colossal brown bear, large even among its own kind. Its head shifted to look at her, and its eyes glowed with a sickening, angry green light. It was enchanted muscle. Balthazar didn't hesitate. Recognizing the skeletal mage as the primary target and the bear as a blunt instrument, she ran a wide, desperate arc around the perimeter of the bear. The bear responded instantly, lurching to its feet. It moved with a magically enhanced, jarring speed, jumping to intercept her. As the bear closed the distance, Balthazar made her move, lunging at Ortunk. The skeleton began to stand, raising a bony hand to cast a ward. But Balthazar was faster. Her tiny arms wrapped around the mage's neck, using its frame as a momentary shield. The simple-minded bear, under the rock command to kill all intruders, swiped at the catgirl with a paw the size of a small barrel. It missed Balthazar, but caught Ortunk squarely. The massive, enchanted paw thrust straight through the skeletal chest of the mage. The green light in the skeleton's eyes sputtered, and the crumbling bone collapsed to the ground, the guild's target dispatched by friendly fire. The bear bellowed, its enchanted rage boiling, and began to ready its paw for a second, crushing strike. Balthazar scrambled free of the bone debris. The enraged, enchanted bear was now the only thing left, and it was entirely focused on her. She darted backward, weaving through the stone pillars and stalagmites that dotted the chamber. The bear's immense paws hit the rock with tremendous force, leaving deep scratches and gouges. She raced toward the exit, Ghost following close behind. The bear pursued, terrifyingly fast on the straightaway, but not nimble enough for the cluttered tunnel. As the bear's paws continued to smash into the rock, Balthazar noticed something critical. Where the claws ripped the stone, the faint green glow in the bear's eyes briefly flickered. The magic was starting to fade. The collateral damage was too great, and the enchantment was breaking. Balthazar, beginning to tire from the sheer expenditure of energy, focused on staying out of reach, forcing the bear to smash against the walls until its power gave out. Seeing her chance, Balthazar grabbed a fist-sized rock and threw it with all her strength at a cluster of stalactites hanging perilously over the tunnel. They fell, giving her a vital moment. She lunged, not for the body, but for the fading glowing green eye. Her dagger sank home. The bear bellowed one last, agonizing roar before its colossal body crumbled, fading quickly to dust as the enchantment failed completely. The fight was over. Balthazar returned to the chamber, searched the mage's remains, and collected the hidden treasures, securing the quest's bounty. She continued her journey, finding the first cure ingredient, the whisper bloom, growing near the craggy, high-altitude rocks. On her way down, Balthazar came across a desperate battle. A massive winter wolf was fighting a mountain bear to save its pup. She immediately jumped in, her agility and dagger skills outmatching the bear's brute strength. She dispatched the bear quickly. After the fight, she tended to the wounded wolf, using a healing potion on the mother, then the pup. But the pup was too far gone. Balthazar sat with the mother wolf, watching over them until the pup passed. She wiped away a tear, an emotion she hadn't felt in decades, and bid the wolf goodbye. As she continued her descent, the wolf followed her at a distance. That night, before they reached town, Balthazar left a generous pile of jerky and cured meat out for the wolf. Balthazar reached Red Rock, resupplied her potions, and found a durable collar of protection which she then bought and buckled around the massive wolf's neck. She gave him a name, Ghost, for the pristine white of his coat. Ghost barked once and danced around her, licking her hand in appreciation. "All right, come in," she relented, opening the door to her apartment. "We are both going through trials, aren't we, my friend?" She patted Ghost's head. They slept soundly. The next morning, after 2 days of travel, they reached the shore town to secure passage to Mirkfell. They hired a boat, a two-man skiff whose captain looked dubiously at the wolf. The boat reached the outskirts of Mirkfell Island. It was thick with a humid, foreboding fog. The captain pointed to a lonely dock that fingered out just past the fog line. "That's as far as we go, lassie. You be on you own from here." They offloaded and began inward, immediately ambushed by 3 lizardmen. Using their new split attack tactic, they managed to wound the creatures with quick strikes and retreats, finally dispatching them. The two wandered for hours, running into more lizardmen. Then, they encountered a lizardman shaman. The battle was fierce, and Balthazar was caught by a flame spell that seared her makeshift armor right off her body. After they finally dispatched the shaman, Balthazar found the last ingredient, the tidal thorn, in its belt pouch. The return journey was humiliating. Balthazar, barely covered, endured the hungry lust in the sailor's eyes. Once on the mainland, she immediately entered a clothing shop and purchased a simple dress to get by until the quest was over. Back in Red Rock, at her apartment, she looked in the mirror. Ghost nudged her hand. "What am I doing, friend?" she whispered, holding the 3 ingredients. "This curse has not truly hurt me. I have my strength and my skill, but now I have youth and agility. Should I revert to my old form? I was starting to age and slow down." Ghost simply nudged her hand again. Balthazar collected the ingredients and went to the church. "We can have the cure ready for you by the morning," the cleric told her. Balthazar returned to the temple in the morning, Ghost padding silently beside her. The head cleric presented the cure, a vial of shimmering, swirling azure liquid. The cleric smiled. "Drink this, child, and Balthazar the warrior will be restored." Balthazar took the vial, its glass cool against her palm. She looked at her reflection, a fierce cat face, brown ears, and a youthful, determined jaw. She thought of the aches she no longer had, the years she would gain, and the unbreakable bond she had forged with the wolf beside her. Ghost, in turn, only saw her strength. With a final, decisive movement, Balthazar pressed the vial back into the cleric's hands. "Thank you for your service, cleric," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But the old Balthazar is gone. I believe I prefer the new model." The cleric, stunned, could only watch as the tiny catgirl warrior and her enormous white wolf companion turned and left the temple, the unneeded cure still shimmering on the altar. Later that morning, the Adventurers Guild hall was buzzing. At the tables, veterans whispered the tale of the ancient curse, the great warrior Balthazar, transformed into a miniature Catwoman. Newcomers, hearing the outrageous story, snorted, dismissing it as just another old wives' tale, spun by too much tavern ale. A 3-foot woman with a tail? And she fought Ortunk, one young hopeful scoffed. Impossible. In the corner, resting comfortably on a padded bench, was a massive winter wolf, Ghost, his head resting on his paws. A mug of steaming ale sat untouched on the table beside him. A small, agile figure in a dark blue dress walked up to the barmaid. She was 3 feet tall, with rich brown hair, pointed ears, and a casual swagger that radiated veteran confidence. "Miss," the cat girl called out, her voice clear and commanding, "can you get my friend his favorite meal when you get a chance?" The barmaid, who had seen it all, smiled warmly. "Of course, with pleasure, Balthazar. Welcome back." Balthazar, having chosen her fate, simply gave a curt nod. She hopped up onto the bench next to Ghost, scratched his ears, and watched the rest of the guild. She still had a job to do, and now she had a partner and a new lease on life.